Let's talk about a crisis that's brewing in a tiny strip of water but could have a massive impact on your wallet. We're talking about a conflict that could hike the price of pretty much everything, from your daily commute to the gas you cook with. All right, let's dive in. So picture this, a narrow channel of water. At its tightest point, it is just 21 miles wide. That right there is the Strait of Hormuz. It might not look like much on a map, but believe me, its importance is, well, it's almost impossible to overstate. And here's why. Through that tiny choke point flows a staggering 20% of the entire world's oil supply. Think about that. Every single day, 1/5 of the planet's oil passes right through here. But for a country like India, the stakes are even higher. A massive 60% of the nation's liquefied petroleum gas, yep, the cooking gas in millions of homes, it makes the exact same journey. So you can see what happens here doesn't just stay here. It's a global issue. You know, for years, analysts have warned that one wrong move in this strait could set off a worldwide economic disaster. Well, today, it looks like that wrong move has finally arrived. Peace talks between the US and Iran, they've completely collapsed. And in response, President Trump has declared what's being called a double blockade. The immediate result? Oil prices have absolutely skyrocketed past $130 a barrel, and honestly, the entire global economy is just holding its breath. So what exactly is this double blockade that's sending shockwaves across the globe? Let's really break down what's happening at the world's most critical choke point. Okay, so the term double blockade, it's basically a two-part move by the US Navy. First, they're straight up blocking any ship from getting into or out of Iranian ports. Simple enough. But here's the second part, and this is where it gets really controversial. They're also targeting any vessel, anywhere in international waters, that has paid a new toll that Iran started charging. And this really gets to the heart of the conflict. You see, for the past 6 weeks, Iran has been charging tankers up to $2 million to pass through, calling it a simple transit fee. The White House, on the other hand, calls it financial terrorism, and that's the justification they're using for this whole blockade. The impact? Well, it's been immediate and, honestly, devastating. The number of ships moving through the strait each day has plummeted from an average of 135 all the way down to single digits, like 9. This is a very, very high-stakes game of chicken, and right now the global economy is just stuck in the middle. Okay, but this isn't just some far-off story about oil tankers and geopolitics. A conflict happening thousands of miles away is about to have very real consequences for everybody in India. Let's talk about why this matters directly to your wallet. This is where India is in a uniquely vulnerable position. You see, while the country's done a pretty good job diversifying where it gets crude oil from, it hasn't been able to do the same for LPG, that's our cooking gas. Get this. A staggering 90% of India's LPG imports still have to pass right through the Strait of Hormuz. And that dependency creates a really dangerous inflation trap. We're facing a potential LPG crisis, for one, and that dream of buying cheaper Iranian oil, which India had just started doing again, well, that's over. And you know what happens when energy costs go up? Everything else follows. The cost of getting vegetables to your market, the price of your online deliveries, the cost of daily life just goes up for everyone. In fact, experts are calling this the largest supply disruption in history. And it's pretty clear who's going to feel that the most. The Indian middle class is, without a doubt, the primary target of all these economic shockwaves. So with India and other countries in such a tough spot, you'd think other world powers would be jumping in to de-escalate, right? Well, the reality is way more complicated. To really get it, we need to zoom out and look at the high-stakes global game being played by all the key players. When you look at this global chessboard, you see it's not just about oil. It's a proxy battle. The US says it's fighting financial terrorism, sure, but it also wants to contain Iran. Now, this creates a huge dilemma for China because half of its oil supply is suddenly at risk. Does Beijing send its own navy and challenge the US directly? Meanwhile, many analysts think Israel's leadership is using this as a chance to push for total regime change in Tehran, no matter what it costs the global economy. And if we focus on the US for a second, critics are pointing to a pretty serious domestic angle. With the president's approval rating down to -43%, which is reportedly even lower than Richard Nixon's during Watergate, some are arguing that this whole foreign crisis is just a calculated distraction from scandals back home. The International Energy Agency, or the IEA,
is not mincing words. They've called this the greatest global energy security challenge in history. That tells you this isn't just another flare-up. This is a major turning point, with potentially catastrophic consequences for all of us.
Which, of course, leaves us with the ultimate question. Is this double blockade a necessary, if painful, strategy to counter Iran? Or is the entire world being forced to pay an impossibly high price for a conflict that could just spiral out of control with no clear endgame in sight?